What is going on, Ape Nation? You're watching video 2 of a 3-part series where Brad Katsuyama explains to you how Ken Griffin is able to buy your order information from stock exchanges in order to make money and profit off of your trades without you even knowing it. So if you missed part 1, make sure you check that out first, or you may be kind of lost in the sauce, or you could continue to watch if that's what you want to do. Anyhow, I'll have the 3rd part of the series linked in the end screen at the end of the video. And we're going to get started right away, but before we do, please remember to smash that like button so that the YouTube algorithm shares this video with as many apes as possible. And also, if you are new here and haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so. Tap that notification bell so that you never miss a video, because I drop content just like this every single day.
That's when I took the job. And if you look at a chart of the S&P, the absolute bottom of that chart is spring of 2009. And all of a sudden, I could convince a bunch of people who never in their wildest dreams ever wanted to work for the Royal Bank of Canada that the Royal Bank of Canada was actually a pretty good place for people to work. So I built a team at RBC. For the first time also, I started to read about high-frequency trading. I had no idea what that was, but I knew that it sounded pretty important. I needed to hire people from that industry, and I did. And what some of the people from the high-frequency trading industry explained to me was that the 100,000 shares of AMD that I saw on my screen wasn't just at one stock market, the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. There were actually at the time 13 different stock exchanges in the United States that were geographically located in different buildings. Now, the geography actually is important here, because what that means is that when I see 100,000 shares on my screen and I try to enter an order, me pressing the button once isn't just one action. Me pressing the button once sends one message to something called a smart order router. It splits my order up into as many as 13 different messages and blasts them out to the stock exchanges. This is going to sound crazy, but RBC at the time, we were located in downtown Manhattan. All of the exchanges were in New Jersey, which is west of Manhattan. So what that means is that my one order to buy 100,000 shares of AMD, let's say there's 25,000 shares offered at 4 exchanges, BATS, Direct Edge, NASDAQ, and New York Stock Exchange, the 4 biggest exchanges at the time. I would blast 4 orders out to the market from RBC, and they would arrive in sequence first at BATS, because BATS is located in Weehawken, New Jersey, right on the other side of the Lincoln Tunnel. It's closest to Manhattan. Then Direct Edge and Secaucus, then NASDAQ and Carteret, and the New York Stock Exchange built a new, I heard, they spent close to $1 billion building a data center in Mahwah, New Jersey, and one in Basildon. It would arrive there last. It was 60 miles away from NASDAQ. Difference in time, this is gonna sound completely bananas, but was 2 milliseconds between arriving at the first and the last exchange. At the time, I thought that was actually pretty fast. It's 300 milliseconds to blink your eye. 2 milliseconds to me seemed pretty fast, except for the fact that one of the people I hired, this guy by the name of Ronan Ryan, had just come from building out high-frequency trading infrastructure for some of the biggest high-frequency trading firms there were. And he said, I got bad news for you, Brad. I can get from one building, BATS, to the next in 476 microseconds. A microsecond is 1/1,000,000th of a second. He could actually get there 4 times faster than I could, which meant that as my orders were going out to the market, we would arrive at BATS first. Ronan's clients would pick up a signal and race us to Direct Edge, NASDAQ, and New York. And they were doing 2 things. One is they were canceling their sell orders. Now that they know a buyer has come in and bought everything, all of the AMD shares at $291 on BATS, they're racing out to cancel any sell orders they have in the market. But second, they're also trying to buy shares ahead of me to sell back to me at a higher price. And this is what was happening. After Ronan explained this to me, I said to him, well, can we get faster? And he said, well, he's like, we're the Royal Bank of Canada. We will never be faster than anybody, right? So getting faster was not a solution. There were things that his clients were doing that we would never do. A funny story is that also proximity, where you're located in the data center. So now that I've paid to be in the data center, where you are in the data center matters. And he said that next to one of the big stock exchanges, Toys R Us actually owned a cabinet next to one of the big stock exchanges by accident. They were there. I think they were probably running their website or something like that from there. And he said he was working on behalf of clients trying to pay Toys R Us insane amounts of money, and they finally gave in. They finally sold their space, and they wanted to leave Toys R Us as the identifier on the cage because they didn't want anyone to know who was in the cage. Proximity matters, and they spent a ton of money on that. He said we cannot be faster than them. But the one thing we could do was get slower. And at the time in 2009, this sounds crazy. Every big bank out there was selling to their clients. We're the fastest, we're this, we're that, we're microsecond, we're nanosecond. And we said, you know what, we're gonna get slower. And what that means is slow down our fastest connections to try to get all orders to arrive at all exchanges as close to simultaneous as possible. And in theory, the way to think about this is send the order to New York Stock Exchange first, send the order to BATS last, to arrive simultaneous, and we actually were able to do that. We got our arrival variance down to 290 microseconds. It is not as easy as this diagram makes it look. It was actually very, very hard to do because latency changes. At the beginning and end of the day, there are more messages on the network because of the open and the close. Latency fluctuates. So this was actually something where we had to use messages in a real-time basis to calculate variances between exchanges, but we got our variance down to 290 microseconds, which meant I could now buy or sell everything I saw on my screen. This was the easiest product in the world to sell. I'd walk into any asset manager out there and I'd say, you want to buy Bank of America, you see 2 million shares in the offer, how much of that do you get? People would say anything from 500,000 to 1 million shares. I said, I'll get you all 2 million. And they would say, give me the product. The product actually it took RBC from 19 to number 1 in the Greenwich Associates survey in 1 year.